Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
What's up?
Oh, nothing. Just chilling on a Saturday night.
Another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Lifing It. We are your hosts, Marisa.
And Ellie.
I caught you as you were about to sip that wine.
I know. You caught me in the middle of a swig.
Sorry about that, girl. Sorry about that.
All good. All good. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Okay, so today's episode, Ellie, is going to be about toxic people.
I'm excited. I'm ready.
Yeah, yes. I'm so tempted to bust out my Britney imitation of toxic, but I'm gonna bite my tongue and I'm gonna proceed with the episode. Okay, so toxic people, do they actually exist? Are you in a toxic relationship? Do you have toxic tendencies? And where else this episode goes today?
I'm ready.
You're always ready.
I'm ready. This is going to be a good one.
I know. I'm excited. Okay. So before we get into today's episode, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment or review, because not only do we love to hear your thoughts on our episodes, but commenting and reviewing our podcast helps other listeners, other tribe members, potential tribe members find us. So do us a solid. You just be a good person if you do it.
Yeah. Give us some feedback. It helps us out a lot.
It does in our brainstorming sessions.
Absolutely.
Okay. So after much talk, we have decided that we are going to start a new segment. And I guess this has come from just our brainstorming session. So we have decided that we are going to introduce a new segment in our episodes. We'll start each episode with it and see where it goes. So our new segment is called the Let Me Live My Life segment. And basically this segment is going to be dedicated to highlighting stories of people trying to live their lives on their own terms that may be outside of societal norms. So basically the whole premise and purpose of this podcast.
Can I live?
Right? Oh, we need some theme music for it. We do. That's okay. That is one of our next steps. We need some theme music for it. So sometimes these stories are going to include our own personal stories, or sometimes there'll be stories about other people that we just feel like need to be lifted up. Sometimes we just feel like people are often, well, not sometimes, but often people can be limited by other people's opinions, values, beliefs, and people are just trying to live their lives. And you know what? At the end of the day, people are going to talk about you, whether you do something or you don't. So you might as well just live your life and be happy.
Yeah, you're so right about that. People always have something to say.
They do.
Whether it's good or not.
Whether it's good or not. Whether you do something they wanted you to do, they have something to say. You didn't do something they wanted you to do, they have something to say. So
you can't win.
No, you can't win.
So you might as well just do it your own way.
Yes.
F it.
F it. I like that. We would call the segment F it, but
oh my God. The F it segment.
I know.
F it, let me live.
Maybe we'll create another segment then.
I know.
Let me live still sounded like we could just, put it on Instagram. F it. I don't know. We might get censored.
I know. We might just get cut off or something. I don't know. We might get dropped.
Yes. Okay. So I guess the whole reason, let me just get back to our listeners. So the whole reason why we want to share these stories is that we are hoping that it may inspire someone to just live their life on their own terms. So let's kick off our Let Me Live segment.
What you got?
All right.
What do you got for today?
I went into the deep holes of the internet and I found a couple of stories. So there was one in particular that resonated with me. I think it's a really good example of someone just trying to live their life, and people always have something to say. So The one example that I found that I think connects is about Doja Cat.
What's happening? I don't think I heard this one.
Okay. So first of all, do you know who she is?
Yes, I really like her. Yes, I know who she is.
Yes. I love her songs. They're not appropriate. Like I always find myself having to turn it off when my child is around, but I really like it. So I listen to like the Kids Bop version of her songs.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Focus.
Focus. Okay. So this is what has
focus.
happened. This is what has happened with Doja Cat. So she apparently posted something to Twitter because that's how everyone communicates these days. So she posted something to Twitter about her being frustrated with being overworked. Now, Doja Cat is A-list celebrity at this point. Like she's probably at the peak of her career. So I understand that there are probably a lot of demands on her time. So this is what she posted to Twitter. Quote, "I'm just tired and I don't want to do anything. I'm not happy. I'm done saying yes to motherfuckers because I can't even have a week to just chill. I'm never not working. I'm fucking tired. Alex is getting old. He's 68 years old and I can't even be there for him. I want to be alone." So now I have to say, insert myself. I don't know who Alex is. Do you know who Alex is?
I was about to say, who's Alex?
I don't know who Alex is, but clearly maybe like an older family member.
Maybe dad.
Maybe, I'm guessing. Although she called him Alex. So I don't know. Maybe we should have done our research on that. So
it's all right.
Okay. But this is not the point. Alex is not the point of why we're bringing this up. So she goes on to say, "It's not anybody else's fault but mine anyway. I just keep agreeing to shit I don't want to do in the future. It's my own dumbass fault. And then I'm too tired to put any effort into this shit. I'm so run down from everything else."
Wow. She's fucking tired.
She's fucking tired, right?
You got to be tired when you're like tweeting about it.
Yeah. And it just sounds as though like there's a lot of expectations for her to be doing stuff. And it sounds like she's just pulled in many different directions. And then she's just like, can I fucking live? Yeah,
she's pooped.
She's so pooped. I get it. I
get it. I feel her. I could totally relate to her. She's tired.
In what way?
I don't know. Sometimes you just wake up and you're just tired of doing the same goddamn shit. You're like, You know what? We've gone through over this over and over again. It's like, here we are again. Like how we're not moving past this. And you just become tired. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know, is it age or I don't know what it is, but I'm just tired lately.
Yeah.
I'm tired of having the same conversations. I'm tired of having the same like reaction to things. I'm just tired. I just want to be.
You need to tweet about it.
I know. Apparently I need to. Maybe if I tweet about it, somebody will listen.
So I think, just based on what you said and connecting to what Doja Cat tweeted, she said something. She said, what did she say? She said, "I just keep agreeing to shit I don't want to do in the future. It's my own dumbass fault." So I'm hearing that she's also, not only is she tired, but she also sort of thinks that she might have contributed, that she is contributing to some of this, some people, I guess, permeating her boundaries or just making grabs on her time. So my question to you, based on the comment that you just made, is do you feel like it's your fault anywhere when you get to this point where you're just tired of the same old? Like you said, you're tired of the same reactions. You're tired of this. Do you feel as though you play a part in it? Because I hear her saying that she plays a part in it.
Yeah, I think we always play a part when we don't create boundaries, right? We always, kind of like facilitate people to sort of like continue their behaviors on certain things. So it's kind of like, I had to deal with it. If let's say someone is constantly like leaving, I don't know, a dirty bowl in the sink, and then that just kind of like irks you. And every time you see a dirty bowl, you're washing it, right? You wash it, and that person will always leave that bowl there because they know there's someone on the other end who's going to wash it. Right. So it gets to a point where you just become tired. You know, it's kind of like, and then you just have to vent, and then you have to tweet about it, right? So I'm sure she's been in situations where she's just kind of like agreeing to doing things so many times, and here she is today, like she has to tweet about it.
Right.
She's like overworked or like done with like just agreeing to being in 5 different places in one day, or, you know, yes, I can do that. Yes, I'll be there. Yes, 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 yes. And then it's like, yeah, she's contributing. And, you know, so yeah, of course, I think we always do.
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard too, because I guess, so 2 things, right? So for her, she can't take a day off. Like, at least you and I, we don't have obligations. We have non-legal obligations.
Right.
Right. So like, there's no contract, there's no money lost. If we one day, Tuesday, wake up and say, we're done. Today, we're done. I am leaving the house and I'm not coming back. Yeah. I will come back at some point. I just don't know when I'm coming back, but I'm basically off the radar for today. So don't call me. Don't ask me anything. I'll be back when I feel like coming back. Right. So we have the liberty to do that. It sounds as though she probably doesn't have the liberty to do that, because once she's in it, it's like, okay, once you commit to something, you have to follow through, because now it's like money's at stake. People's jobs are at stake. Like, there's also a lot of pressure for you to say yes. But I guess, so my question to you is, do you feel like what is your let me live moment from your experience? So that you talk about the bowl, right? And it's like, the bowl is always there, right? It's like, everyone knows that they need to, after they eat, put their dish in the sink, wash the dish, and then put it in a drying rack, right? And every day, the bowl is always there. It just stays in the sink. Like, people forget the next steps. After putting it in the sink, they forget that they're supposed to wash it. So then what is your let me live moment? Is your let me live moment like, please just wash the bowl so that I can live my life, and that bowl in the sink will not nag my psyche? Like, is that your moment of like breakthrough that you need? Like, what is your let me live my life moment?
I guess it boils down to, I don't think the bowl in the sink is actual.
You don't think it's the issue?
I don't think it's the issue, right? It bothers my psyche, but I think it's a deeper rooted issue here. It's kind of like, do you actually look at me as a maid? Like, am I really your maid? Right. You know what I mean? Like, am I the maid in this household? Right. Why can't you eat out of your bowl and wash your bowl? Right. So that I don't have to go and clean up after you. Right. Because I don't think of you as a maid, because when I eat off of a bowl, I'm washing it and I'm putting it away, because I think your time is valuable, because I think you have other things to do with your life. Right. So I find it that when you eat out of a bowl and you leave it for me in the sink, you would think that my time is less valuable. So that irks me, because I am not your maid. It's not the actual bowl. It's the actual like lack of, I don't want to say disrespect, because that's pretty heavy, but it's the fact that you think I have the time to play a maid in your life. I think that is the issue.
Got it. So the let me live moment is, let me have my time back.
Yes.
Give me my time by cleaning up after yourself.
Yeah.
So that I don't feel obligated to have to keep this sink clean. Because my time is valuable. You need to let me live. So let me live. Give me my freedom back by taking care of your own shit.
Sure. Yeah. Value my time. That's it. Just value my time. It's just as valuable as yours. You may think that you have more happening, whatnot, but like, just don't compare time. Like, just value my time as much as you would value yours. That's it.
Yeah. That was deep. Look how the bowl symbolized time.
I know. It could be a bowl. It could be a cup. It could be anything. It could be a sink full of dirty dishes. It could be a like unflushed toilet. It could be like, I don't know, dirty floor, you name it. Yeah. But yes, I think it's the fact that I think you don't find my time as valuable. That irks me.
Got it. And that is not allowing you to live your life, because you're spending time at the sink washing the dish.
Yes, because I was like, do you think I want to be in the sink washing dishes? Do you think I'm the maid? No, I'm not picking up after you. Right. So yeah. I think that's what it boils down to.
Yeah. So how come you don't use the dishwasher?
To do what?
To wash the dish. Because it's just one?
You know what? It's funny, because sometimes, now that we go, because sometimes the dishwasher is there. It's available. Right?
Right. So you would be okay with someone putting the dish in the dishwasher?
Oh, hell yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, that's even going deeper, because if you think, so if the dishwasher is free, right? Instead of putting it in the dishwasher, you choose to leave it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's even worse.
Yeah.
Because the dishwasher is free. There's space.
Okay. The dishwasher's like, that's what I do.
Yeah, that's what I do. I hold dirty stuff. Like, put it in me. Like, give me the dirty shit. Let me cover it up. Yeah. But you don't do that. You leave it out. You eat and you leave it out. Who's the maid? Where's the maid?
Yeah.
Why can't you just put it in the dishwasher?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's a whole other level of disrespect.
But it's a good point, because it's like, let me live. Yeah. Stop leaving shit in the sink and let me live, because it fucking irks me.
Yeah. It irks me. It irks me. But, I think everyone wants to live in their way and be about what they're about. And not, I don't know, maybe not be considerate to others, or, I don't even know what it is. I don't even know if there's a thought behind it, but this is how I take it. Right. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's the intention, but this is how I receive it.
Yeah.
And the delivery is very powerful.
It is.
Deliveries are very powerful. So
yeah,
that's how I take my deliveries.
Yeah. No, I agree, because I feel like if you clean on a frequent basis, then basically you are avoiding having to take a lot of time on the back end to clean. Right. Because it's like, if we pick up after ourselves every day, and if we do a little bit, if everyone does their part every day, then come the weekend, we're free to do whatever we want, because the house has sort of been taken care of. Right. But if no one does anything for days upon days upon days, then at some point it's going to come to a head, and there has to be a big, massive, like, okay, everyone has to clean. We have to do this deep clean. Like, it just becomes so time consuming. Right. Yeah. And then your weekend is gone, and before you know it, Monday's here again. And it's like, what did you do this weekend? Oh, I cleaned the house. Right. Yeah. And so I think time, like you said at the start, is so valuable, and it feels disrespectful when people make grabs for your time. And by not picking up after oneself, by leaving shit out for other people, it might save time on your end, but then I feel like it takes time away from someone else, right? Because now they're forced to sort of take the time to pick up shit. And no one wants to do that. Like, no one wants to spend their time doing that.
Right. Clearly. I mean, because you didn't take the time to put it in the dishwasher or even wash it. Clearly you didn't, right? So you're passing on that.
Your time was so valuable that you didn't do that.
You didn't do that because, oh my God, I gotta go. But you choose to pass it on to whoever is available to pick up after yourself. It's like, what? My time is just as valuable. Right. Yeah. So it's like, and it's your bowl.
Yeah.
It's your goddamn bowl.
But maybe there's a bound. Get your bowl. That's a big. Get your bowl.
Get your bowl.
Get your bowl. The dishwasher's like, I'll take it.
I know.
Nobody uses me.
Exactly. Yes. Get your bowl.
Get your bowl. Yeah, but I think that's what it is, right? And I think that's what Doja Cat is saying here. There is some sort of inconsideration that is happening here when people are just making grabs for her time.
Yeah.
At the same time, she also has to learn how to say no. But I get it, right? Because as a celebrity, you sort of need to ride your 15 minutes of fame. I'm not saying that Doja Cat only has 15 minutes of fame. Clearly, she has a lot more. But it's like, you just don't know when your wave is going to end. So you sort of feel compelled to take advantage of all the opportunities that are laid before you. But then that can possibly lead to burnout, because people will pile opportunity upon opportunity upon opportunity, and with the expectation of you saying yes to everything. And before you know it, it's like you're burnt out. You're flying from here to there. You don't even know what city you're in. There's no, God forbid you say you want time for yourself. You need a day. It's like people then want to immediately call you unprofessional when you might just be honest. I think of Naomi Osaka, the same thing, right? And it's like, she took her moment and she was like, no, enough. Like, I'm not doing this. And look at the backlash that she received for being really honest and just saying, I need a mental health week. month. You know what? I don't even know how long my break is going to be, but I need it for my spirit. And I think that people are not letting other people live. They have a lot of expectations that they project onto people because they feel insecure themselves, or they just feel like they want to, somehow they benefit from pushing others to the limit. And at the end of the day, it's the person who, it is the entertainer, it is the athlete, it is, insert any other profession, who they suffer, and then society just sort of moves on to the next best thing. And what are you left with? You're just left with sort of a mental breakdown. So I feel for her, because I think that everyone, and like you just explained, everyone feels tired and frustrated and feels like people don't respect their time a lot. It's very common, but I feel bad because I feel like she's sort of trapped in this cycle of like, well, I also have to take advantage of me being really popular right now.
She's trying to build her career, and it's like, what side do you go on? Right? Sometimes building a career, it takes, you got to take that burn that comes with it.
Yeah. Well, I hope she learns her boundaries. I hope she learns how to like build boundaries and communicate those boundaries so that people respect them going forward.
All right, let's dig in deeper.
Okay, so let's get into today's episode. All right, so today's episode is about toxic people. What is a toxic person? Are you a toxic person? How to deal with toxic people, etc.
Are you in a toxic relationship?
Are you in a toxic relationship?
I feel like we all are in some way, but
yes, and we're going to unpack that. We will figure out if we are in toxic relationships, and we're going to try to unpack that. I hope that this doesn't have to be a second episode, like a follow-up.
I hope not.
We've been trying really hard to condense things into one episode, but I feel like we're going to end up unpacking way too much for one episode and have to continue this.
It's all right. Let's stay focused. We could do this.
Okay. Ellie's basically saying, Marisa, the only reason why we wouldn't finish this is if you don't go off tangent. So stay focused. Stay focused.
Wait,
bitch.
do you believe that you go off? What?
Oh my God. Yes. All the time. All the time.
Look,
all the time. Oh, you got me to admit it. You got me to admit it.
I didn't even say anything.
That was smart. That was slick.
You just admitted to something I didn't even, that was all you.
Clearly someone wants to get into this episode. So let's start. All right. So here's what we learned. Well, here's what I learned. Even though we just called this whole episode, or we just said that this whole episode was going to be about toxic people, there actually is no such thing as toxic people.
According to who?
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you asked, because according to an article from Exploring Your Mind, there is no such thing as toxic people, only toxic behaviors and patterns, and people participate in these toxic behaviors and in these toxic patterns because it hides insecurities. Boom.
So wait, you're saying, what I'm hearing is that people are not born toxic.
Right. Like inherently, we're just good humans.
Yes. We just pick up all of these toxic tendencies, behaviors, whatever, along the way.
And I believe it because I know that I have participated or I have engaged in toxic behavior, not on purpose. I like to think at the end of the day that I am a good person.
Yeah.
In my whole being. But they're like, yeah. So as I started reading and learning, researching about toxic behaviors, I'm like, okay, yeah, I identified myself in a few. So I agree. I don't think I'm a toxic person.
Yeah.
I have objectively observed myself participating in toxic behavior.
Oh, so wait, did you always think that? Like, is this new? So you always kind of thought you were a toxic person until this recent research?
No. I don't think you're hearing what I'm saying. I'm not a toxic person. Wait. Let the record show. I'm not a toxic person. No, okay. I'm not. This, like, inherently humans are not toxic. So I am not a toxic person. I do not have a toxic soul. I actually think I'm a good person. But I do. But
you always thought that, right?
That I was a good person?
Believed that. Yeah, you always believed that you weren't toxic.
You know
always
what?
believe that?
I think now I have the language and I can identify that I actually did participate in some toxic behaviors now that I'm learning more about psychology. But I didn't think that I was toxic in the past. So yes, to answer your question, I did not think I was toxic in the past.
Okay.
What about you?
I must say, until our recent research for this episode, I started thinking that I could have possibly been labeled as a toxic person.
Oh, so labeled, but you didn't think that you actually were.
No, I don't think I'm a toxic person, but I think I was labeled as one.
Do you feel like you participate in toxic behaviors?
Maybe. I don't know.
You don't know.
You know what it is? I think that in certain circles, I don't have toxic behaviors, but I feel that in others, I've been labeled as such.
So I wonder if it is, and this sounds so scripted right now, and this part is so not scripted, but I do wonder, based on that statement that you just said, I do wonder if in the relationships where you feel like you were labeled toxic, I wonder if you felt insecure in those relationships. And the relationships where you don't feel like you exhibit toxic behavior, you feel very comfortable in those relationships, very comfortable, very secure in those relationships. It's sort of a revelation that I just started thinking about as you made that comment.
I don't think so. I think that I honestly, this is all very new. I just learned this whole thing about people aren't toxic. They just have toxic tendencies, patterns, habits, and blah, blah, blah. Because before I would just been like, you know what? You just suck.
You're toxic.
You're toxic, period. That's always been my take. But, since this whole research thing came about, I kind of just started thinking, I was like, you know what, maybe this makes sense, because a person, like you said, can be a good person, but yet you have toxic tendencies. I never looked at it that way, to be honest with you. I just would label you all right.
Yeah.
You just.
It was very binary for you.
Right. So I guess to answer your question, I think that the two groups that I have in mind are very different, right? Maybe one group is very accepted, very acceptant of very secure, right? Very secure about their person, of their surroundings, of who they are. And they just kind of welcome all of me, the good, bad, ugly, the toxic, whatever. And maybe the other side is just very insecure that they have to label me as toxic or as unhealthy, can't deal with that, over that, you know what I mean? So maybe that's where it stems from. But because overall, as a person, I think I'm a good person.
I think I'm a good person too. And I think you're a good person. Absolutely. I think the question comes down to, when we are labeled toxic, can we see where we might have been toxic? So maybe we need to just talk about these toxic definitions.
Sure.
And then come back to this. All right. So part of the reason why we decided to do this episode was because in general, we are just trying to grow, right? We just talked about, we actually had a revelation 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Right. So here we go. So although I think we both feel good about ourselves most of the time, and we would label ourselves inherently good people, there might have been some times where we participated in toxic behaviors. And as I was going through this list, I was like, ooh, I could see how someone would think I was acting toxic in the moment.
Yes.
I could see that. All right. So this all stemmed from, we were actually listening to another podcast. We were listening to Jay Shetty, and I think that he's really inspirational. And, it's nice to sometimes pull ideas from people, because it's I think that's what's so great about podcasting. You can build off of other people's ideas, or people just get you to think about your life, the world, how you see the world in different ways. So we were listening to a podcast. It wasn't a recent podcast, but it was about toxic people. And so he mentioned that there were 9 types of toxic people, right? And so the first one he said was called a catastrophizer. So a catastrophizer lives on the edge of a cliff. Everything is the end of the world, resists efforts to look at things objectively. And what I liked about how Jay Shetty broke it down was, not only did he describe what that toxic category was, but he also went further and explained where that toxic behavior could have originated from. So as far as the catastrophizer goes, he was saying that most likely these people were not given much attention when things did go wrong in the past. And so part of the reason why everything is a catastrophe is because they get more attention for, I guess, how much they emphasize something that they're going through.
Right.
Okay. The second one is Ellie's like,
no, I was like, yeah.
Okay. You want to take the complainer?
So a complainer is never pleased with current circumstances. They may have someone in their lives who's always pointed it out, the negative in their growth, maybe raised by complainers. So they just kind of just act the way they live their life basically the same way they kind of were raised, right? They just let out what they know. They don't know any better. They just complain about life. They're never pleased. Nothing, if it's gray outside, the world sucks today. And if it's sunny, it's like, no, it's still a bad day. Nothing is good. Nothing pleases them. Nothing is great about anything.
Yeah, that's hard. The next one is the critic. So someone who's always criticizing other people, but usually behind their backs. And this could stem from someone who has probably been criticized themselves. See, and I feel like when we talk about how the toxicity originated, it starts to all make sense. Because I start to think about different relationships I have. I start to think about different people and things that they say, behaviors that they exhibit. And it starts to make sense when you think about where it originated.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I think you should do the next one.
Okay.
Because this was you earlier.
This was.
Okay, so
the next one is the curmudgeon. These people are downplayers. They make something or someone feel less worthy. And they always believe someone has a benefit that they do not have. It may come from parents not complimenting them or being limited by other people. And now they want to limit you. So this one, and the reason why you said that, this one was very complicated because it wasn't that I was a curmudgeon against someone else. I was my own curmudgeon.
I know. Unheard of, right, guys?
Yeah, I was my own curmudgeon. Ellie had given me a compliment on something. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I don't even know what I said. Oh, I was like, it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah. She's like, no, I got it from someone else. I was like, what? Somewhere else or something to that effect. I was like, what are you talking about? You put it together. It looks great. It's awesome. She's like, oh, no. I was like, all right.
Yeah. And then I realized I had a revelation. I was like, oh my God, I'm being a curmudgeon to myself.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. So I did participate, but you know why? Yeah. I was feeling insecure. I was feeling insecure about something I created. And I put myself out there. I was feeling vulnerable because you were looking at it and I didn't know what you were going to say. And so I was like, I'm going to beat her to it and I'm going to downplay my worthiness.
Yes, you totally did.
So I did participate in some toxic behavior. See, sometimes the toxic behavior can be against yourself.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes. I feel like sometimes it starts with us.
Yeah.
And that's probably the worst ones, right? True.
That might be. But what's so interesting is that I do not feel like I came from parents who did not compliment me. As a matter of fact, I do feel like my parents did compliment me a lot. So I'm going to have to dig deeper and come back to you. I'm going to have to circle back to you to figure out where that curmudgeon behavior came from. Because it wasn't my parents, but clearly it came from someone or something or some experience I had.
That could be. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's from someone, kind of just downplaying your very best effort on something.
Now that I think about it, as a woman, and I think as a Black woman, I think we're constantly put in this situation where people downplay our accomplishments. And I think that's probably where it came from. Just in the professional world, it's always like, oh, she got that position because she knew someone, or she got that position because she slept with so-and-so, or she got that position because, so I think it came from the work world.
Yeah.
And then I think I just sort of carried the torch. Once those voices were gone, I think I just picked that up and I made that my reality. So now that was like a real time revelation I just had.
Yeah, you totally did have that.
I did.
On the air.
What I'm also realizing is that the people who maybe projected their limiting beliefs on me or who downplayed my accomplishments, they might have been in that situation where no one complimented them in the past.
Yeah. You're being super super compassionate right now. You totally are. You totally are, right?
Catch it while it's hot, because I don't know what's going to happen after this episode. I might resort to I might default to my ways. But it's all making sense to me.
Yeah. This is a growth moment. I don't know if I would look at it that way, but okay. But it's not about me. It's not about me right now.
Oh, it so is. It's about both of us. It's about both of us. But think about it. So if we think about this curmudgeon person, right? Like, do you have curmudgeon people in your life? Did you have them in your life? And like, as I think about the people who downplayed my accomplishments, I know a little bit about their history, and I could clearly see how their upbringing made them into curmudgeon. So as you think about yourself and what people said to you, people who downplayed you, can you see like potentially what type of upbringing they had or where they themselves were downplayed or not complimented?
No, I can. Today, right now, yeah, I could totally do that.
Yeah.
I can, for sure. It makes sense. But like, I'm not even going to lie to you before, like 5 days from today, no, I wouldn't. I don't know if not 5 days, sorry, maybe a year or two ago. I don't know if I would have looked at it the same way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, my revelation was right now in real time.
I don't think I would have.
Yesterday, no.
Yeah, not yesterday. For sure.
I'm like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, you suck.
Yeah. You're fucking toxic.
Right. Yeah, like you are toxic. It's not your behavior, it's your whole being.
Yeah. You are a toxic person.
Yeah.
In your soul.
Your soul. Your true colors are showing today. That's what you've always been. Like, how could I miss it? But that was that was my take on all of that before. I must say, I'm learning. I'm growing.
I feel it. I
feel growth. I feel growth coming. All right, next one. What are we on number 5?
Yes.
Ceaseless celebrators. Always happy. Push away negative emotions. Refuse to acknowledge negative emotions. They cut off people's feelings if they're not positive. They do not have the emotional capacity to look at their own challenges, to allow themselves to discover their own weaknesses. That is crazy.
Girl, I underlined that phrase. I underlined that sentence.
Wow.
Wait, keep reading. There's more.
Maybe they have really been hurt or traumatized in the past and no one has ever asked them about it. And they thought about sharing their emotion was weak. Wow. Okay. They bottled up a lot.
They what?
They bottled it up a lot. No one asked them ever. They just bottled it in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn.
All right. It's funny. I think of a couple of people as I'm reading this.
Okay, let's hear it. Without naming names, of course.
I know. I was like,
I don't want to be toxic in that way either.
No, let's go to the next one. We'll come back to that.
Are you pushing? Are you pushing
this
away?
I know. I'm pushing negative energy off. Yes.
You are being toxic right now. Okay, fine.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
I am taking notes, and we are coming back to this.
I know. I'm taking my notes right here, right now.
Okay. All right. So our next one is a consumer. So a consumer has ongoing problems, asks for advice, but never takes it. They feel free to ask for support and take favors, but never reciprocate.
Can you think of anyone?
Yes. I also wonder if this wasn't one that was like high on my list for the toxic behaviors that I participate in, but I did wonder about it. I did wonder if I participate or engage in this toxic behavior. Because I always do, I think, ask for advice. And then put it through my own filter. And I'm like, do I want to take that advice or do I not want to take that advice?
Wait, you make the effort to ask and not take it?
Sometimes I do because I want to get someone else's, but maybe this is a little bit different because I do it so I can get someone else's perspective to help me look more objective way. So it's like, I might ask for your opinion, but I may or may not take it. But I don't think I like corner people or sort of engage them in a long conversation or consume their time in doing it like that. I don't think I do that, but I do ask for people's advice and sometimes I don't take it.
Yeah. Maybe you're just 50% consumer. You're not malicious about it.
I'm not toxic about it.
You're not toxic about it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Toxic.
The word of the day.
The word of the day. All right. Next one. The changer. Wow. The changer is a different person to every person they talk to. You never get a sense of who they are. They do not know who they are. Maybe they never had a sense of belonging, so they seek it wherever they go. This is a heavy one. The changer.
It reminded me of that song with Jay-Z and Pharrell. And it's like, change clothes and pose. And then it's like, there's a different outfit for every situation they're in. And this toxic behavior just reminded me of someone who's sort of like a chameleon. And they let the room sort of dictate how they behave or the group.
I feel like there's a lot of this in a lot of people, right?
That's so funny you said that because I was going to say, I think that I saw this more in my 20s, but I don't really see it that much anymore now that we're seasoned.
Yes. I agree. I agree with that statement for sure. I feel like I've gone through this phase.
Oh,
I've gone through this before.
I wouldn't think that you were. You seem very set in your way. Like, this is who I am. So I wouldn't peg you as a changer, but that's interesting that you said that.
But sometimes you just have to put on like your game face to fit into certain settings. Not that you're changing who you are at the core, but maybe it's just like sort of like a survivor mode. So that could get you through situations and like in life.
Yeah.
But I've definitely done this.
A PTO meeting, PTO
meeting, like a work thing. I don't know. Like, you need to be polished for this. You need to be like, I feel like I don't feel like I have totally done this. I don't know. I don't think I've done, I'm in that space right now, but I think I was at some point in my life for sure.
Yeah. Well, what I hear you saying is more, or describing is more like a conformer.
Yeah.
But like a temporary conformer. But I can see what you're saying because you felt like you had to change, even if it was temporary.
Yeah. Maybe for an hour, maybe for just, a day. Like, I don't think it went as far as a day, but a few hours for sure. Yeah. I think so.
Did you feel in the moment when you were changing, did you feel as though like you weren't being true to yourself or you just saw it as a means to an end?
Definitely a means to an end.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't change that much, but it was maybe just to sort of like get a message across or.
Oh, you weren't like, call me Elaine today.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that deep of a change. It was more like, I don't know. It was like superficial stuff, but yeah, I had to do it. It was like a survival thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't like stripping of who I was to make a point or anything like that. But
you've done it. I get it.
Yeah, I've done it for sure.
Our last one, and this is one that I can connect to, and we'll get into that shortly, but let's talk about what it is. So the last one is our courtroom expert. And this person is addicted to giving advice. They always have an opinion and believe they are right. Turns out they give people the best advice for them.
So that's you.
So I wouldn't say it's me and in my entirety, but I have been guilty of being a court. But I also will say that it is never unsolicited. It's usually solicited advice.
Right.
Like I just don't dish advice and then think that I'm right. But I also will say this. In my defense, I totally sound like a courtroom expert.
Yes.
But in my defense, I put in some work. Like I read shit. I research shit. And there are times where people's circumstances remind me of shit that I've read about. So I share my resources.
Gotcha.
I share my knowledge that I've gotten from the resources I have found.
So you feel like you're licensed.
No,
You're licensed to
no, that is completely not what I'm saying.
I'm just joking.
No,
put in research. So
no, I just feel like it's not necessarily a courtroom expert, but it's just sharing knowledge and lessons.
Yeah.
Yes, knowledge. It's just sharing knowledge. And it's not like I am the keeper of all knowledge and I am the wizard. It's nothing like that. But it's like, oh, I read this article that reminds me of this situation. So here's what they said. Oh, I saw this show that reminds me of your situation. And here's what happened. And that's how I feel like I dish it. But now that like I read the description, I was like, oh, I could see how someone could see, I'm being toxic.
Yeah.
But funny. You know, the intent is really good. But yeah, that's definitely a toxic behavior that I participated in.
That's crazy. You know, it's crazy how I feel like as we were reading through all of these like descriptions and whatnot, it's like, oh my God, like everything has changed. Like how like we probably perceived certain situations or a certain person. It's like, oh, okay, maybe I get it. I kind of get it. I'm willing to change how I interpreted this before. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what Jay was talking about. And he was basically like, you know, when his advice was like, don't avoid these people, right? But you can be connected to them from afar. Like once you get, he was talking about like this element of respect. And he was like, you know, once you sort of peel back the layers and you understand why people are doing what they do, then you can sort of decide, it gives you more control and you can sort of decide what behaviors you'll engage in with them.
Yeah.
Versus like just labeling them toxic. And I think that was what was so enlightening for me. It was just like, oh, this helps me understand why someone might be engaging in this behavior, including myself. And like, it also is helping me check myself and be like, what are you feeling right now that is allowing you or that's making you feel like you have to engage in this behavior? So when I become a courtroom expert, like, am I feeling insecure myself or like, what am I feeling where I feel as though I need to dish out advice?
Right. Yeah, that's true. But you know what? Like, I really admire his way because he has a lot of like empathy to all of this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could do all of this. You know?
I get it.
I don't know if I can. Like, I don't know because, but then I understand. Like, I get it. I understand his perspective. I understand where he's coming from. I understand like breaking all of this down to like, yeah, this is where people are coming from. This is where people, you know, setting boundaries. So it limits you to a certain extent. I get it. But it's like, wow, I'm giving my 100. Like, I need you to give your 100 too.
So what is it that you think you can't do?
Like all this empathy thing, understand. There's like, sit there and be like, oh my God, like this person's coming from this. Like, this is the experience. Like, I need to look at the good side. But you know what? Maybe I need to look at the bad side too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, it just seems, it's just really heavy. It's a lot.
It is. And I think it pushes us out of our comfort zone, right? Because like, I think what he was also saying is that we tend to go to this binary default where it's like, you are not serving me or like not serving me, but like it's not positive. It doesn't feel good. And so like, therefore it must be bad. So I'm going to avoid you, helping us move from that to, okay. And now I have a better understanding of like why you are doing this. And so now I have to adjust my boundary with you to figure out how strong my boundary is going to be with you. Yeah. So I feel like to me, it helps me position people in my life better because now I'm not going to treat everyone the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I think my default is just to like, this is who I am as a person. So I'm just going to like it's sort of engaged the same way in all of my relationships with everyone. And I hear what you're saying. Like, that sounds like a lot of work, but I think it's only the relationships where we feel like that are stressful to us. I don't think that this applies to relationships where we feel like it's effortless, but I do think that those relationships where they're stressful because like, you just can't put your finger on them.
Right. But then again, it's like, do you really think that those relationships are really meant for you? Like, am I really for you? Are you really for me? Right? Like, are we like forcing this?
So I'm glad that you said that because
you've done some research.
Court is in session. But this reminds me of a quote that Dr. Phil had said, and this was this was like old Dr. Phil when he was still on Oprah, and he had said something like, in every relationship that you're in, you have to ask yourself, what is the cost? Is being in this relationship worth the price? Right? And he says, if the cost is your dignity, your self-respect, individuality, health, and peace of mind, then that is not a healthy relationship. And I think that is helping me right now as a barometer to get to your point, as far as like, is it worth it? Like, are you just forcing something that is just not meant to be? And I think in those cases, then you can make an easy decision and be like, that is not for me. If I am feeling like any of these things are happening. And I now look back on some of the relationships that have ended were stressful. And I felt anxiety every time I would meet this person, or there was something that was uneasy in me. It didn't feel natural. It didn't feel organic. It didn't feel effortless. And I think about what was the cost. And in some of these cases, it was my peace of mind because I was feeling anxious. And so those were not beneficial relationships to me. And I think I let things such as obligation, societal molds, like, you have a friend from a very young age, you're supposed to keep that friend, my definition of friendship and all that, like all of that has changed since. But that is like that's a really clear boundary for me at this point.
So I guess in this case, with that relationship, with those relationships, I think you're quite satisfied that it was left where it was left.
Yes.
Right. I guess there was no like seeking empathy or don't pass judgments type of like none of that. Like
there was no, I'm gonna leave the door open. There was none of that. Like, doors closed. The door is closed. There was none of that. So, but I think that I think the complication comes with like current relationships, and if I feel like any of those are toxic, and what do you do with those?
Yeah. I think you also, you're right. What do you do with those? And I think that, like, I get him. And for something like that to work, for a relationship like that to work, you both have to just put on your, big girl panties and just have the talk. Right. And I feel sometimes people aren't having that talk. It's like, hey, here are the boundaries. Just be clear. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm faced with that situation, just be very clear to me. Just say, Ellie, this is what's happening. This is why I'm acting a certain way. And just let me just decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to move forward with it or not. And I feel like in a lot of relationships, these talks, like these conversations aren't happening. Like, right? People are just left in the lost space. It's like, hey, you got to go figure out, like, why isn't this working? Why is this person acting this way? Why, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, no, that's really draining. If you're willing to just have the talk, I think that, sure, that could just have a chance of moving forward. But do you actually think that people are having these types of conversations? Like,
no, hey, and I'm guilty of it too.
You know what I mean?
No, and I'm guilty of it too. And I think part of it, at least for me, it's, I get overwhelmed by finding the language to be clear.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, in my experience, being clear in the past has hurt people's feelings. And that's not what I'm trying to do. And
you're too clear with your boundaries. Is that what you're saying? You're too raw?
No, I'm validating what you just said as far as people not having those conversations. I'm trying to give some insight into why people may not be having those conversations, because I don't always have those conversations. Right. As honest and as clear as I think I am, I think that I still struggle with communicating what my boundaries are. And a lot of it is fear And it's me projecting fear onto the situation. Like, how is the person going to react? I don't want to necessarily cause drama or friction in the relationship. Will this person see this boundary as an isolated incident, or are they going to now generalize that this is how I'm going to feel all the time? Right. I think it's the fear of confronting someone that you care about and potentially letting them down. So I just sometimes suffer internally instead of wanting to hurt someone else's feelings, right? And so then I now start to engage in toxic behavior because I'm insecure about how this person is going to react.
Right. You're being too considerate. You're being considerate of the person's feeling.
Right. But I'm also being toxic is what I'm learning.
Yeah. Yeah.
In me thinking that I'm trying to be so considerate, I'm also being toxic. And so I'm being toxic to them and I'm being toxic to myself. And so I think one of the things that I'm learning is how to be clear and kind. But even in that takes a lot of work, right? Because that's not my reflex. My reflex is not to necessarily phrase everything in a way to, let's just say it this way. I have to work on my delivery. And the only reason why I feel like I have to work on my delivery is because I think that in the past where I thought I was being clear, I might have hurt some people's feelings in the past. That wasn't my intention, but that's what the result was. And I think that result has caused fear in me. And I'm like, shit, I don't want to go down that road again. Like, I clearly don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
Right.
So I have to really think about how I want to say this, but sometimes I don't always have the time to think about how I want to say it.
You just want to say stuff.
I just want to say shit. I just want to say shit. Can I live? But I do think that I have to figure out what my boundaries are.
You mean you don't have them?
I don't think I do. Yeah, like not well thought out boundaries. Like if someone asked me to jump off the side of a cliff, I'd be like, no, that's but I do. It's not happening. But I have to figure out where my boundaries are. Like, I think about love is a funny thing, like I think about my parents too. And I'm slowly starting to learn that if I say no, it doesn't mean that I don't love them. Right. It just means not right now. It doesn't mean no forever. And I think the guilt sometimes helps me. The guilt makes me break down boundaries that probably need to keep standing. Like I'll start, I'm like, oh, I feel guilty. Like I'm taking down that boundary. Forget it. Come on in. You know what I mean?
Not today. I'll start tomorrow. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll start tomorrow. Like, I think I have to be consistent, or maybe I just have to explain a little bit more, so that, I'm also realizing that it doesn't just have to be one or the other. Like on any given day, maybe I can have different boundaries because I think my go-to is sometimes to just avoid, but I think I just have to learn what my boundaries are and then decide when I'm going to employ them.
So I guess you're struggling with setting the boundaries altogether.
Oh, yeah. Do you have boundaries?
I would love to think that I do. I think so. I mean, with my siblings, with my siblings, I definitely do have boundaries. I do. I'm like, no, not today.
Yeah.
Not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And if it's a bad day, I just don't engage.
Yes.
Sometimes I just don't engage because I don't have the capacity or the
bandwidth.
Yeah, I don't have it. And then I was like, no, not happening.
See, and Doja Cat probably wishes that she could do that.
She's too famous for that.
I know.
We can swap places.
No, I don't think you would want to swap places.
I may be able to say knows more than she can. I don't know.
Still being you. Okay,
it's still be me, right?
Yeah,
still be me. But no, I think I have a little bit of a boundary because I don't want to overextend myself. I don't want to overdo anything.
Have you done that in the past? Is that why you're saying that?
To a certain extent, I think I have. Yeah, for sure. Now that I'm a bit more seasoned
and wiser.
Thank you. And wiser.
No problem.
I'm not even sure. No, I'm not. It's like one event or two event a day. That's it. If I can fit it, great. If not, sorry. I'm just sending you like, I'm sorry. Couldn't it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. Couldn't do it. I think boundaries make for a healthy relationship.
Yeah, they can be beautiful.
They are. Ooh, boundaries are beautiful.
Boundaries are beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, writing it down.
I know. I was like, that needs to be something.
Yeah. I think just overall, I am learning, and I hope I continue to remember that boundaries just don't mean I'm cutting someone out of my life. It's just that particular toxic behavior that I'm identifying in that person. I know where it comes from, so I'm not going to engage in that part. Or I identify why that person is engaging in that toxic behavior at the time, and I speak to that toxic behavior.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. Speak to that.
Where I'm like, so you may be feeling like I am not worthy of this accomplishment.
Yeah.
But I'll have you know, I have 2 master's degrees and I worked really hard for it.
Yeah.
Have a great day. Thank you for coming in.
In your face.
Yeah. In your fucking face. Bye now.
Did you just drop the mic?
I did.
We need a mic effect.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to speak to that toxic behavior that I am witnessing.
Wow.
And separate it from the person and separate it.
Oh, okay. Separate it.
Yeah. Right. Because it's just, I'm trying to understand that it came from this person's insecurity. So I understand why you're downplaying me. You might feel like you're not worthy of something yourself, but I worked really hard. So
that sounds like, is that your takeaway from this episode?
That is my takeaway. So first of all, I have to establish some boundaries, but then second of all, I think, I'm going to speak to the toxic behavior.
Ooh, I'm going to face you.
I'm going to see where that gets me. I'm going to try to say no in a kind way. I'm also going to try to speak to that toxic behavior in a kind way.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. Because I don't want to lose friendships at this age. I think that I don't have a ton of friends. The friends that I do have are really cherished relationships. And so I definitely want to keep those. And I think in all my relationships, everyone's good completely outweighs any bad.
Yeah.
Myself included. And I know that, people have grace on me and empathy for me. And I want to reciprocate that. But then I think that sometimes those relationships can also be the most difficult because you're closest to those people. So you don't want to hurt them. But honesty doesn't have to result in hurting people.
Right. Yeah, I think I like what you said. You can still be yourself and still not hurt each other and be accepted. You just want to be accepted for who you are and still be, and still be seen and still have a relationship and still kind of like, have a healthy relationship for that matter.
Yeah. And not engage in toxic behaviors.
Yeah.
And realize that when I am engaging in toxic behaviors, being catastrophic or
what's the last one?
Courtroom or being a courtroom expert. But unless it's solicited, I feel like there needs to be a caveat. Unless it's solicited. If it's solicited and people ask me for my advice, I'm going to give my advice.
Marisa's always going to come for you. Don't ask her.
But I do think that I am catastrophic at times, and I have to sort of catch that thought. And it goes back to our previous episodes. I think it was episode 23 or 24 when we were talking about worrying. I think that the worrying is very much connected to the catastrophic toxic behavior. And just catch myself when I'm going down that and really, try to surface that insecure thought that's causing me to act in this way.
Yeah. I love it.
Whew.
That's a lot.
Today's episode absolutely helped me identify some of the reasons why I might engage in certain toxic behaviors, but also for me to have some empathy for people who I am in a relationship with who I think are engaging in toxic behaviors. I think I have built some understanding today.
Yeah. No, I agree with you for sure. I think it was a growth day. I learned a lot from this episode for sure.
You look different.
I do. I'm shining different.
You look
angles.
different from the beginning of this episode.
No, I really do. I do. I think I've learned a bit more than I knew an hour or two ago, for sure.
That is what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that for the longest time, I don't think I even consider the whole boundaries idea being present in anyone's life, to the point where it's kind of like, well, when you create boundaries, it's like you don't necessarily have to like cut the person out of your life. You know what I mean? It's sort of, you just cut out the side or the part of their lives that doesn't fit into yours anymore, right? And what I struggle with the most is kind of like, well, if you choose to cut a part of my life, in my head, right, it's like, well, do I really need to be in your life altogether? I understand why you creating boundaries for your own well-being. I get it, right? But then I struggle with, well, if you need to cut anything of me, then I don't know if I belong in your life. You understand? You understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying.
So that's heavy to me. I get why people do boundaries, create boundaries. I get why people need to, especially as you get older, you get set in certain ways. You make changes for your own well-being. I understand all of that, right? But then in the back end of it all, it's like, well, if you need to cut me apart, put me here, this is this half of belly, that's that half. Like, do we even need to be in the same space?
But I've learned a lot, but I've also learned how I can stop doing those things.
Yeah.
Now that I know it exists, like I can't, like Oprah says, I can't unknow. So right. I can only do better from this point on.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Lifing It. Please visit us on Instagram at Lifing It Podcast for links to earlier episodes, or check us out on YouTube at Lifing It Podcast.